Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Ray, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna do something a little different than what I normally do on my YouTube channel. Excuse me. What we are gonna do today is I'm gonna do a beginning tutorial for some people who like bonsais. And what I'm gonna do with this video is actually do a trimming here on the video just to show you how it works, show you how I do it. I'm not a professional, I'm an amateur, but I do like bonsais. I have several, and I just wanted to, this is my first year starting to make some, so I just wanted to show you how I've been making them this year. And maybe you might want to do it yourself, or as you're getting your own bonsai, you'll be able to see how to trim it and how to wire it, because this is what I'm going to do here. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me, but I'll do my best to record it. It's not going to be the best recording because I don't have that capability, but why don't we go ahead and start, shall we? Let me turn the camera here. You can see some of my bonsais in the background. This is the bonsai we are going to do here today. This right here is a blue chip juniper. Okay, you can see how thick it is. It's still rather small, but it's rather full. Usually when you get your bonsais, this is usually, depending on the bonsai itself, how it's kept and watered and how much sun it gets, this is probably about a year's growth. Okay, so if you let it grow out, it'll probably get about this much growth in 1 year. It could get a little less, but it's usually about this much. So every spring, you're actually going to want to trim your bonsai, okay? And also, you're going to want to wire it. You don't have to wire it, and we'll talk about that when we wire, but you know, most people wire their bonsai, and the purpose of wiring the bonsai is just to shape it depending how you want it to look. That's the only purpose of wiring that I know of. You don't have to wire it. You could just let it grow the way it is, and you could trim it however you want to. Now, most people will tell you, and yes, there are many experts, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but they will tell you that there's a certain way to trim bonsais. Now, yes, that's true. If you want it to grow a certain way, you just start from the top down. But normally, the way you trim it is basically however you want it to look like. So there's no particular way that's right or wrong. It's just however you want it to look like, that's how you trim it, okay? Especially with this first trimming. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to trim it and the things that we're going to do. All right, so why don't we go ahead and start. Once again, this is a blue chip juniper, and we're going to trim it out and make this big plant here that's rather thick. We're going to make it into a small little bonsai. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start doing that. You might not be able to see me in the video because of the way the placement is, but I just want you to mainly focus on the tree itself, and then I'll do some talking while we're trimming. All right, here we go. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, you see this here, it's in a pot. We're gonna go ahead and take it out of the pot. All right, so you see all this this mesh and all the fertilizer here that's coming, that you have here in your first potting, right? Well, we don't need all this, okay? Because bonsais are supposed to be small. They're gonna be in a small pot. I'm actually gonna put it in these small little pots here that look like barrels. Okay, this is what I use for starters, especially now that I'm just starting out. I do like the traditional square ones. Fortunately, they actually are pretty costly, and if you're looking for doing it for your own, yes, please, you know, you can make them beautiful and spend a lot for pots. But if you're just doing them just to do them, and maybe you're giving them as a gift, these are good starter pots, you know, to start them in, and people can replace them from there. But I am looking on getting some different traditional square pots, or some kind of rounded pots for these bonsais. But eventually next year, when I trim them, I'll repot them and put them in different pots. So what we want to do with this, you see how big it is here? It's probably maybe about 7 inches tall, maybe. We're gonna take off about half of that, okay? So we're gonna start ripping apart here. We're gonna do our best not to mess up any roots, but this has a bunch of netting in it. I'm not sure if you could tell there with the video how clear it comes out, but it has a lot of netting along with the fertilizer and some trees in here. That's how they first come out. So, you know, these here, I bought them this way. I didn't plant them myself, okay? So this is why they're like this in netting. If I were to do them from a trimming, it'd be completely different. But some of this netting sometimes is a little bit hard to pull apart and take off. Like I said, we're taking off almost about half to 3/4 of that fertilizer. So you see that big mound right here? The top part we're gonna keep, especially with the size pot we have. If we're gonna do the traditional bonsai square pots, we would actually just go a little less. But because I have a deep pot here, we're just gonna do this half piece. Gonna help me cut this here, cut this netting. Just gonna use some of these bigger pruners. And just cut in here. I'm just cutting on the outside because I don't want to get any of the roots. So I'm cutting on the outside and getting the netting here. Okay, so that helps out a lot. Let's just try and pull it apart here. And sometimes you will cut some of the roots. You know, that's not a big deal because you still have plenty left over. Just don't want to cut the main trunk of the tree that's in the bottom inside the fertilizer. So you want to be careful with that one. Okay, so look, it's coming apart there. There's some roots there splitting. So look how much I've taken off. That, and look what's left. Okay, so we want to take this much off. Remember, bonsais are made to be small. They're not supposed to be big trees, okay? So you don't need that much. You need a good root system, yes, but you don't need as much as we had here before. So I'm just push this aside a little bit. Okay, so the good thing why we want to do it like this is because we actually want to look at the tree when we're going to do trimming, right? So right here is the trunk of the tree. If you can see right here with my finger, I'm rubbing on it right here. This is the trunk of the tree. The reason why we do this is not only to make the root system smaller, because it's going to go in a smaller pot, because that's why they're bonsais, are small trees, right? But we actually want to look at it to see where we want to cut it, right? If we just start cutting, well, we might mess up the shape and not get something we want, right? So if we look at this right here and peel away, this is going to be the base right here, because that's where the base of the root is, right, of the stem. So we just want to look, so we could cut stuff like we could cut this part right here, cut this, and we could cut here. And the reason why you want to cut lower sometimes, like I said, it's up to you. But some of us, we like to cut lower depending how many stems it has going out, how many branches it has going out. We want to cut the smaller ones, so that way when we cut it small and trim all this top part, you have a good looking trunk there that's exposed. If you leave all the ones on the bottom one, you're never going to see the trunk because the bottom's covering everything up. Now this one here doesn't have any leaves or anything, it's just a dead branch. So what we're going to do here is take our little pruners, and we're actually going to cut it right at the base right here, okay? And boom, that's it right there, okay? So I hope you guys can see this well. So that's what we did right there. Now we have a couple other here. See, we have a big one right here. Not sure if you can see that. We have a big one right here that runs along this way. This we are gonna try and keep because it's a good stem of the branch, but we have a bottom one right here that's actually, you can see it right here, has a long branch, but it's not too healthy and it's at the very bottom. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this as well. Okay, so that freshens up some stuff. And we actually have here on this side, so if I put it this way, this side we have one big one that branches off into two, and on this side we have two independent ones. So this one here doesn't actually have that many branches, so we want to make sure that we save some of them because we don't want to cut all the lower ones on this one because it doesn't have that many on top, okay? So although it has all this is just extra foliage, right? It's not really like the branches, okay? So let's see here. So we're gonna have to lift this up. So like all this right here that you're seeing right here, that's in my hand, all that's coming off of one branch. So this one back here only has two. two little ones. I know that may be hard to see, but what we're gonna do, we're just gonna start trimming. Okay, cut there. And like I said, there's no proper way of doing it. There may be some that say yes, there is a proper way, and you know, like I said, I'm not an expert, but your bonsai is gonna look however you want it to look, not how other people tell you to make it look. And the majority of people who are in bonsai will tell you the same thing, because your bonsai is an expression of you, right? So not everyone's gonna see things differently. If you look at artists will look at things and always see it differently. That's the beauty of art. They say our art is in the eye of the beholder, right? Well, same with bonsai. It's an art piece of you. So however you see it, you know, if you're an artist, this is your canvas. So however you see it, well, that's how you're gonna do it. So we have a lot of decisions to make here, because this is a very odd looking tree the way it is, and we can cut some stuff, but then it'll probably mess us up too, from making it look a certain way. So I wish there was a way where I could get it even more clear for you guys, but you'll see how it comes out as it goes. And some of these long ones, you can leave them long, and when we wire it, we can bend it to make it go a different way. That's a good thing about these bonsais, especially when you trim it. They're really pliable. So when you use wire on them, you're wrapping the wire around the branch, and you can make it go a bunch of different ways. So, and I'm not gonna cut them off. I'm just gonna trim them to where they're shorter, and we'll work from there. Okay, so that helps out a lot. Okay. Trim that one off. And if you trim off, whatever you trim off, make sure you do it as close to the trunk as you can. Don't leave a piece sticking out. Just trim it as close as you can to the actual trunk. So that way it's flush and there's nothing sticking out. And you do that for the benefit of the tree, okay? So that way it heals properly and it looks a lot nicer. Okay, so we have all this mess in here. Okay, let's see here. Okay. And as you can see, look, I'm cutting pretty big chunks off. There's that one, there's this one, there's this one. And you can actually do these as cuttings and make your own bonsai. You know, you just cut off the edge there, on the stem, you just cut off the outside. Make sure don't cut the whole thing, you know, just cut off like the skin, dip it in some hormone, and you can actually plant it and grow it. I haven't been successful in doing that, which is why I just buy them and make them myself. One of these days, hopefully I'll be successful and I'll be able to start growing my own, which will be awesome. Okay, I'm just gonna be trimming over here a little bit. Okay, look how that one's already starting to look, right? It's starting to open up in the middle, so that way your plant can breathe, right? And we still have some good looking stuff. And you don't have to make it to where it doesn't have that much, right? It can look bushy like this if you want. It's depending on how you want it. Like I said, it's all up to you. So this one, we could trim it a little bit more, but we could also leave it around the same, leave it like that too, if we want it. I'm gonna trim it more. And the reason why is because I like to give it a good pruning, because it's all gonna grow back, okay? So like I said, every spring you're gonna have to trim your bonsai. So even though if I trim this out, make it look nice and skinny, it's all gonna grow back. So, you know, don't be afraid, well, I trimmed too much or I did this. No, it's gonna grow back. Okay, let's see here. Like I said, this one's a little tricky just because of the way it is. So like I could leave it like a Christmas tree with this one and let this grow up. I could do that, but I'm gonna have to trim around it in order to let it. But I rather just cut it, and I could leave some more top foliage up here. Okay. Like I said, I'm no expert. I'm just a novice. I've only been doing bonsai for about maybe 2 years now. And I usually would just buy them from someone local. But this year I decided to get some and start cutting them my own. Just doing them for myself, my kids. You know, that's what I do it for. And they like doing this stuff and learning about it. So they each have their own bonsai, and they take care of it. Okay, we're gonna cut some more inside here. And what I'm doing by cutting a lot inside is just opening up the middle. So you can see how skinny it looks right now compared to what it was, right? So if you open up the middle right here where the trunk is, not only will it help you to be able to see the trunk better, but the tree will breathe better. Just think about it like if someone was wrapping their arms around you, they can basically suffocate you, right? And if you're face to face, it's hard to breathe. Well, it's the same thing with this, with all these pine needles out here just engulfing the tree in the middle. It's just like suffocating. So when we cut it, it gets the plant a lot healthier, and then it could get a lot more oxygen and breathe better. So, and we do that with all plants. So if you have roses, you do the same thing. You prune them every year, so that way they can grow better and have more room and just have more oxygen to grow. So they're just like any other plant. Okay. Okay, and sometimes you'll notice during the spring that these things will start budding, and what you do is to trim it, you may not have to cut it as much, but what you start doing is you just start poking at or pulling at it like that, and anything that comes off, that's just stuff that you don't need anymore. And so you just go like that and pull it like this in the spring, and a lot of stuff will start coming off, and that's just a way of keeping your plant healthy, right? Just think of it, it's a weird analogy, but think about it is you know, we always have to cut our fingernails, right? If not, they'll keep growing, get nasty, we could get disease, right? Well, same with these plants, right? Just pick off what's loose, and that just means the tree doesn't need it anymore, and you just pick it off just like that. You could do this throughout the summer and throughout the winter. But usually you can start doing it during the spring. And then whenever you do see any browning, well, obviously that's dead stuff, right? You could just cut that right off. Just be careful, because these are the pine needles, right? So when they get dry, they're like a sticker, and they'll stick inside your finger because they're really sharp like a needle. So you have to be careful with that. So you could wear some gloves, but normally you could just do it with your hands. It's fine. Okay, so I think I'm gonna leave it just like that. So if you could see it, now I left it rather long, and I'm still not sure if I should or not. Well, let's trim it up a little bit. Watch. We'll cut this off. We'll cut this off. And let's see here. Oh no, I kind of like that long. Like I said, it all depends, and I'll trim it next year again. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pot, and usually they sell bonsai fertilizer, right? And it's mainly rock based because you want it to have a good drainage in it. I use just regular fertilizer, okay? Just regular Miracle-Gro fertilizer, just for the beginning stages. So that way they have a good foundation, they can grow really good. And then, like I said, next year, after being in a pot for 1 year, I'll replant them. And then I'll put more bonsai soil in. And the reason why a lot of people use the bonsai soil right away, like I said, it's just good drainage because it's mainly rock and fertilizer. It's plant food and rock base, right? But they need a good drainage, because believe it or not, these things, if you overwater them, kind of like a lot of plants, when you overwater them and keep the roots moist all the time, they start actually rotting or growing fungus. So this is why bonsais like full sun, and you want to get these particular, you want to give them at least 6 hours of sun, full sun, and let them dry out. Because if you don't let them dry out, then they're going to start getting that moldy, and the roots are going to be messed up, and then your bonsai is just going to die, right? So the key is I usually water them in the afternoon during the summer. Now I live in New Mexico, so it gets around 100 degrees, right? But if you so you have to be careful when you water, because you don't want to burn the plant. But usually I do it late morning, right before noon, when it's not that bad. And I know by at least by noon that everything's dried up. So then when I water it, it stays cool for the rest of the day until at night, until the next day, right? But if you're not sure if you should water, all you have to do is dip your finger in the soil of the pot, and if it's still moist, then don't water it. If it's completely dry, then water it. But these things, depending where you live, you could keep them inside or you could keep them outside. It's best, these are best outside because they get full sun and they can dry out. If you're going to keep it inside, at least keep it in the window where they get full sun in your window, right? That's what you need to do. But like I said, they work better when they dry out and have full sun. But you could still keep them inside. And there's videos on YouTube that you can watch on what to do with your bonsai during the winter. Some people just put them in their garage and they kind of go to sleep for the winter. It all depends. But these can be good house plants. Okay. So what we're gonna do is, I forget what it's called, but you could buy this stuff at Walmart in the craft section, right? It's I forget what this is called, but I use this for the bottom of the pots. And the reason why I use this for the bottom of the pots is because we do not want our root system to grow big, because we want to keep our bonsai small. So what this does is we put this at the bottom of our pots. Okay, see all the holes there in the pots? You can see some. We put this at the bottom of our pots like so, just like this. I know it's hard to see there, but we put them at the bottom of the pot, so that way the root system doesn't grow beyond the bottom of the pot. Okay, and it also gives something for the bonsai's roots to grab onto, so it stays stable. But one thing we always do as well is we have a wire kit that we use to wire our bonsais. We always tie down our bonsai to the pots because they're small, just to give them sturdy foundation, because they're not since you're going to keep them small, they don't have that thick a root to hold on, right? So we always tie them down. Now in these pots I don't tie them down, but I am going to do it today. But normally I don't tie them down because it is a actually thick pot. Normally a bonsai planter, like the square ones that you find, is only maybe about that deep. So where my 2 fingers are, it's usually only that deep. You're only, a regular bonsai plant, you're only looking maybe about 3 to 4 inches thick. Okay, it's never this big. This is probably like a 7-inch pot that's deep. But I buy these just for my first years, right? Just so they can get a good stable root system. And then, like I said, next year I'll change them into different pots. But so we put this down, and you could put more than one if you want to. I usually just put 1 or 2, or I can put some scraps. You could put one main one and then just put a bunch of scraps in there from your cuttings, and it'll be okay. So we'll just do that. And then what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna get some soil. I have the soil over here. I'm gonna just go inside here. And we're gonna fill up our pot. But on this one, I actually want to tie it down. Now there's different gauges of wire depending on which bonsai, what size you have and how thick the trunk is. They're used for the trunk, but we're gonna use some of this wire here for the base to tie it down. And all you do is tie it down is to wrap it around. You wrap it around the trunk right here on the bottom, and the holes that are on the bottom of your pot, you go through them and just tie it, and that's all you need to do. So here we have a small gauge wire, which is what we're gonna use. Okay, I think that would be good. Okay, cut it right there. And bring one through the bottom hole here. over here. Now everyone does this different, so if you find someone online that does it different than I do, that's fine. Like I said, there's no proper way to do this. It all depends on you. I'm gonna fill this with some soil. And like I said, this is just a regular Miracle-Gro soil. And you can use this with the bonsai soil and just mix it together. So that way it's rocky. And a lot of plants like rocky soil. A lot of, where I live, I have a lot of rocky soil. So it's a lot of dirt mixed with rock. And it's easier for drainage. So we have right there. So I'm just gonna move aside some of this right here. And this is what I have to work with, okay? So I'm gonna put it in here. I'm gonna dig a little bit more out because I want the pot to be a little bit deeper. And there, I'm gonna let it sit right there, and then I'm gonna fill it up to the top. Like I said, depending on the pot you have, you're gonna do it a little differently. So I'm gonna take my wire, one of them, I'm gonna wrap it around the base right here so it holds. Then I'm gonna take my wire on this other side, wrap it around the base. Okay, and then I'm just gonna get some more fertilizer. Put some in here. And the reason why I stack it a lot with fertilizer is because as you water, a lot of the fertilizer is gonna come out the bottom of the holes anyway, right? So it's gonna go down a little bit more as you water. But I make sure and put it on top, so that way I flush it with the bowl, but I leave a little bit of lip. You can see there, it's not all the way flush to the top, right? So I do it like that. Push it down, make sure it's nice and solid, and look, the plant isn't moving anywhere just because I wired it down. Okay, so that's our bonsai. It's in our pot. That's how we pot them, that's how we trim them. Now what about wiring? So when you wire, you always wire at the base. So here we have the base, the root or the main branch. And when you wire, if you're gonna wire, let's say this one right here, right? You wrap around the base and then start at the back right here of the trunk, the branch that's coming out, and you just wrap it around it. And when you wrap it around it, you wrap it all the way around to the tip. And what you'll notice is when you wrap it, then you'll be able to bend your branch, and because it's wired tight around it, the wire will hold it in place, and then you can have it look however you want. So because this one's a little bit odd, it doesn't have like one whole trunk branch that's out, it's gonna be hard to wire. So I'm gonna leave it actually like this and not even wire it, because just the way this is. But if you do have a branch that pops out and it has one of these long pieces, you can actually wrap the whole thing and make it twirl or make it turn however you want to. But this one, I'm not gonna be able to wire it just yet, just because the way it is. Now this one, I could wire it and make it go rounded like this. See, this is straight like that. I could make it go round like this, but well, why don't we do that? Okay. Let me see. Okay, so we have this long one that comes out right here, but it hooks up to a branch that's off of the main one, okay? So I'm still gonna go off the main one here. I know it's gonna be hard to see because the way the camera is, but I'm gonna wrap it all around. I'm gonna wrap it, keep wrapping. Now this is where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start going around to this one. Okay, now I'm getting ready to go on the branch itself off this piece. You have to wrap it nice and tight, and you have to try and get in between all these foliage here, because you just want to wrap them back with your finger and get in between the leaves, so that way you don't flatten some, right? And you just wrap it nice and tight. Okay, now I have that extra wire. Let's cut it right here. Now, see how that's sticking out straight? But now I have it wired, so I can bend it, make it turn like that, and look, it's not going anywhere. So you see this one right here? Look how I bent it, and it's not going anywhere. So that's what you do when you wire it. You can make it turn, or I can make it stick up like this. I can make it stick down like that. It's because the wire holds it in place, okay? Now, how often you wire it, that's up to you. I really don't know how often you're supposed to wire them. It all depends on the look you want. But like I said, this one, that's probably the only one I probably can wire, just because of the way the shape of these branches are. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. So here's our bonsai. And I'm gonna do more today, but this is the one I just wanted to do today, just to show you on the video how I do it. So that way, if any of you have anything, you could refer to this one. All right, well, thank you so much.